Hello and welcome to my Pygame physics tutorials. These videos are meant to follow up videos by MetalX1000 and the New Boston, so I highly recommend watching those first. They're going to be based on physics tutorials provided by Peter's website, so thanks to that dude for a lot of inspiration on these. I'm also running this in Ubuntu and in the Ninja IDE that I think I've attributed everyone. Oh yeah, and Firefox for the browser. So here I'm defining my basic template. I'll show you what it does in just a bit, but let me just step through the code right now. On the first line I'm importing all my libraries. On the second I'm importing some Pygame locals into the global namespace. Then I'm defining some basic colors in red, green, blue values. Next I'm defining a screen size, which is a tuple of screen width and screen height, themselves being 600 and 400. Screen size gets passed into set mode, which returns a surface. Next I get the clock object from Pygame time, which I use to regulate the frame rate. Then I'm setting a caption for the window. Next I'm going to define my frame rate to 60 frames per second, and also a runMe boolean to true. The runMe is going to be part of the main loop and decides when it's going to exit, and that happens when the user clicks the X button on the window. In the main loop we have the clock tick, which is going to limit our frame rate to 60 frames per second. We're getting user input, and then we're filling the screen with white and displaying it to the front end. When the main loop exits, we exit the game. So let me show you how a white screen is rendered at a whopping 60 frames per second. Pretty boring. So in order to add any interesting elements to your game, you're going to have to define a few classes first. So let's define our first one to be myCircle. This is just going to be a simple circle on the screen. We're going to define its constructor to have x and y coordinates and a size. The size is going to actually be the radius of the circle, and we're also making color and width optional parameters. All of these parameters get set to the actual object, and then we're also going to define a display function for this class. We're going to be calling draw.circle for Pygame and passing in all the parameters of the circle itself. So that's the coordinates, the color, the size, and the width. Next, we're actually going to construct our first circle. We're going to place it at 100, 100. It's going to be red with a radius of 10. And then we're going to display it to the screen right after we clear it with white. So let's see what that looks like. Alright, getting somewhere. Still kind of boring though. So the real power of classes is their reusability. So let's create another one. This one's going to be a radius of 30 and blue at 200, 200. And another one that's going to be a radius of 40, green, and also have a width of 4. Remember, that's the optional parameter as well. Next is going to be another circle that's even larger at 120, and this parameter is going to be 0 for width. Now, if you remember, that's going to actually fill in the entire circle. So let's display all of those circles, and there you have it, all your circles. The green one has a width of 4, and the black one is completely filled in. So that was your tutorial on tying your first class into Pygame display. Hope you enjoyed it.